Good morning, everybody. If you're joining us from Europe or Africa, or good afternoon if you're joining us from the Middle East or Asia Pacific. I'm now going to hand over to Peter Headland, our International CEO.
Thank you very much, Greg, and welcome everyone to this webinar. Thank you everyone for taking time out of your busy schedules. I hope you're staying safe wherever you are. So before we get into this webinar, firstly, I'd like to introduce Ordnance Survey for those that don't know us. We are the National Mapping Agency of Great Britain, and we are also a global solutions business that is actually wholly owned by the British government. So we work on a government-to-government level with various fellow countries out there in the world, helping them unlock benefits by leveraging geospatial as well as land administration data and solutions. We are very focused on driving adoption and growth through leveraging various technologies when it comes to making critical decisions, driving efficiency, solving complex challenges with the help of geospatial data, and also fit for purpose and fit for future solutions, etc. And furthermore, I'll just tell you a couple of words about myself. So my name is Peter. I am the International CEO at Ordnance Survey. I come from the geospatial and land admin industry, and I've been working in Ordnance Survey for the last 4 and a bit years. And during this time, this tenure so far, we worked with a number of fellow governments from countries on most continents on this planet. I've been fortunate myself to be involved in several of the international engagement with the foreign governments that Ordnance Survey have done. And I do really generally look forward to getting the opportunity to further collaborate with some of you on back of today's webinar in the future. So with that, these are the topics I'm looking to touch on in today's webinar. Land administration is such an important matter to several key stakeholders in governments, but of course also to each individual, to the citizens of a country. Each of these topics listed on screen are very deep in themselves, and honestly, we could have spent several webinars around each and every one of them, to be honest. What is important to highlight, in my opinion, though, is that based on our experience in Ordnance Survey, these are all critical components when it comes to economic development and socioeconomic developments to countries. Please be aware that I have a lot of content in today's session and also many really good examples. So I will go through these at speed. I do, however, hope that by sharing successful and highly relevant studies around the world, key stakeholders such as your governments can see the real value in these areas that we speak about in today's session. And we also look forward to working with you and your government. So as we move further into the 2020s, governments around the world face new challenges, from population growth, urbanization, over to climate change, as well as pandemics very much these days, right? Geospatial information is definitely a crucial tool to help nations navigate these challenges effectively, providing insight and information to underpin effective policy and economic decisions. Government spending on geospatial information is truly a high impact investment in a nation's long-term economic health. As per a really interesting study we picked up supporting this, showing a benefit of 3.2 times larger than the cost put into it. What do we mean with geospatial information now? Well, it's also referred to geospatial data or location data, but it's information about place and time. Geographers and cartographers have worked with geospatial information for centuries, plotting maps and charts to represent the world around us. In the 21st century, though, digital geospatial information is generated constantly from locations derived from our mobile connections to remote sensing of the Earth's surface from space, so Earth observation, to global navigation satellite systems called GNSS, systems like GPS, for example. Advances in technology supports the temporal element to geospatial information. You can see when a piece of data was collected, and you can therefore make judgment on the importance of it to whatever decision you are making. Geospatial information serves an important role in linking different data sets that would be otherwise unconnected through their shared location and place. Enhancing and linking other data-driven initiatives, geospatial information is a critical enabler for nations seeking to grow their economies, to drive sustainable development, to support evidence-based decision-making and policy setting, and to enable the development of new and innovative uses of government data to solve problems and provide new services, something we at Ordnance Survey do every single day in our work, to be honest, and many other national mapping agencies as well. So investment in geospatial data drives economic growth and social benefits for citizens, and delivers positive change across regions, sectors, and applications. From making the basic functions and services of government more efficient, to building natural resilience and enabling the uptake of emerging technologies as such. GI, or geospatial information, helps us tackle the biggest problems of our time and also capitalize on the greatest opportunities by making it possible to monitor, to measure, to predict, and to adapt effectively. Translating data into valuable insight that drives a higher quality of decision making to deliver positive effect on sustainability, on society, and on economy as such. Geospatial information is vital for the understanding, monitoring, and assessment of a wide range of applications. It can absolutely, definitely help nations secure long-term food and water security while increasing productivity and resource availability, predict and mitigate the effects of climate change, rebuild after disasters, generate billions in return from the establishment of secure land rights, and unlock the benefits of technologies such as 5G, autonomous vehicles, smart cities, and so on. High quality geospatial information also underpins the supply chain of many industries across a wide range of sectors, including banking, mobility, telecommunication, and utilities. Insurance, real estate, manufacturing, and very importantly, agriculture as well. So all very relevant industries as such. There has been multiple global studies cite improved precision, greater accuracy, and faster decisions that then lead to cost savings, increased competitiveness and productivity through the use of accurate geospatial information. The table I'm displaying here, put together based on external consultant studies, shows how a subset of these benefits has impacted national economies around the world. And I'd like to bring the attention to the column furthest to the right, providing you with the actual indicative values in this case. As you can see, some economies have seen growth up to 1.2% of GDP after improving their geospatial information capabilities. And that is truly a remarkable number. And we tried to highlight that by putting in that right-hand column. Take Canada, for example, has seen an estimated 1.1% GDP increase thanks to the productivity benefits of GI across numerous sectors, including, of course, mining and energy, transportation, utilities, the public administration in itself, construction, agriculture, and also enterprise. So a lot of those adding up to the 1.1% GDP increase. That's high-level summary on how geospatial information increases GDP. But now let's move into how land admin is a very important part of GDP as such. And before leaving this slide, notable is that all these studies are from high-income countries. It might very well be that geospatial information has a greater contribution to GDP in lower-income countries. So, enabling land taxation. In order to enable land taxation, you need to have an accurate base map. When a government has the geospatial capabilities to build the base map, it also sets off a chain reaction, enabling effective land administration. So in order to enable land taxation, you need to have a detailed, up-to-date understanding about your land parcels. This typically forms the basis of a base map. The base map is used to calculate the area of the property in its simplest form, right through to informing accurate valuation models for market value-based taxation, which takes into account nearby facilities, for example, parks and transportation hubs, and so on. It is estimated that land accounts for about 75% of the world's total GDP. World Bank has estimated that only about 25 to 30% of the land in the world is currently mapped and registered. So you see what tremendous work there is to be done here. Yet, in some developing countries, up to 70% of new urbanization is unplanned. Being such a valuable resource, planning land in a sustainable manner is crucial to secure a prosperous future. Secure land rights can help expand access to credit, improve tenure security, administer land taxation, and attract foreign direct investments. When a government has the geospatial capabilities to build a base map, it also sets off a chain reaction, enabling effective land administration that can supercharge a growing economy. The fit for purpose land administration policy, which has seen a resurgence in the recent years, meets the need of tenure security for all in a relative short time at a low cost. It also covers the revision of the legal base map and institutional frameworks to support tenure security. Fit for future land administration takes that one step further and ensures that land administration systems are continually adapted and updated to meet the changing needs of the citizens, stakeholders, businesses, and governments, as well as the legislation and the technology. Having a system that can adapt to change and variability in data is definitely important to enable sustainable fit for future solutions. So property rights and permanent addresses allow citizens to secure and maintain work and apply for mortgages, which then pave the way for the kind of economic development that can help to reduce proportion of population living in slums and poor housing in the long run. Let's take a closer look at digital deeds and credit in this case. Between 1999 and 2005, the southern Indian state of Andhra Pradesh implemented a new computer-assisted registration of deeds system, facilitated by geospatial information. Because the system published data online, it allowed third-party stakeholders, such as banks and other lenders, to rapidly ascertain property ownership. A study compared the lending data from the banks in the state from before and after the system was introduced, and the results speaks for themselves. The credit market itself increased fivefold after the system was introduced. It went from $7 billion to $35 billion. And the number of property sales doubled. And the increases continued also after the project ended as such. Truly remarkable numbers as such. But how do you put the business case for investments into land administration? I want to highlight another example here, another case study, which is with the municipality of, and sorry for my lack of Turkish language, but Küçükçekmece outside Istanbul. In 2006, a 2006 study funded by the US Trade and Development Agency, USTDA, examined the feasibility of implementing land-based taxation in form of municipality property taxes. The subject city, which is the municipality of Küçükçekmece near Istanbul, was experiencing a low collection rate on property taxes. So the study found that the municipality was collecting roughly 10% of the potential property tax revenue only. The low collection rate revealed a need for property tax assessment and collection solution based on a fair and equitable assessment and valuation of properties. Financial reviews show that increasing tax collection by only 10% per year would provide strong positive effects. So using cash flow models and detailed sensitivity analysis, the city could realize an internal rate of 395% over a 10-year period. So that brought it up to tax revenue of about 290 just by improving the efficiency in tax collection. But it's not only about the return on the investment. Efficiencies can also be saved, of course. Here's another really good case study around land administration in Belize. So one of Ordnance Survey's partners, Trimble, implemented an integrated land registry survey planning inland revenue state land management. It was a valuation platform, and the results truly speaks for themselves. 30 days or less to register. A simple title transfer could actually be registered in only 2 days, for example. Another advantage, increased revenues from newly identified property taxes, up with 200% and sustained afterwards as well. And better customer service at the local level, no longer necessary for the citizens to travel to the capital city to do these matters in person. So significant gains for a small country like Belize. In fact, many countries already have some form of tax on land and property. I've highlighted a few of the case studies we are coming across, but a comprehensive study prepared by the World Bank from 2002 reviewed the land and property taxes from 25 different countries. The study outlined the different approaches to land taxation, of which there are two main areas: area-based assessment and value-based assessment. But the study also noted some countries using self-assessment. In order to calculate tax using these three approaches, accurate geospatial information does indeed help a lot. Land and property taxes have historically been implemented by local governments, although a few exceptions are centrally fixed taxes as well. And whilst the study acknowledges that land tax is at best a minor source at revenue, it is an important one to local governments. Take the municipality in Istanbul, for example. The percent of land tax to local revenue varies, of course, between countries. Some examples are Thailand had a 1% increase. Kenya at 15%, right up to 58% in Mexico. However, as mentioned earlier in the webinar, secure property rights brings not only taxation, it also provides a catalyst for a growing economy, helping to expand access to credit, improve tenure security, and enable better infrastructure planning. So, how do you successfully implement or enable land taxation in your country? We put together some suggested clear steps to start your journey on enabling land taxation. As I said before, these are massive areas as such, so definitely a reason for further discussions. But based on our extensive experience, first off, be clear about your objective. What do you want to achieve? What are the outcomes? When do you need to achieve it by? And so on. Then consider your current situation. What needs to change? What legislation exists? Do you have a base map in place already that is digital, not analog, that you can work with? How can you decentralize and empower local communities? Think about the stakeholders or users of land registration. Who needs access? How can both communal and individual land tenure security be improved? How can you improve efficiency and transparency in land administration? And how can, of course, land disputes be resolved? These disputes are usually a big part of the legal system and cases in court. And identify potential gaps, of course. Think about finance. How will the project self-fund? What's needed to get the project off the ground? What capacity does your agency have? Where do you need help? What technical capabilities do you sit on? But how do you record all this information? Well, we usually start off with the Geospatial Maturity assessment that we see very helpful in assessing your current situation in an easy-to-use framework, and then act as a roadmap to the vision you're striving towards. Going into geospatial maturity now, governments should consider doing a geospatial maturity assessment. This will help to identify how to upgrade your digital geospatial ecosystem in a way that maximizes societal benefits and economic growth. Ordnance Survey offers geospatial maturity assessments to any government wherever they are on their geospatial journey. These geospatial assessments take into account a range of very important aspects related to geospatial information, such as collecting and managing data, data quality and data governance, product and service development, corporate governance, stakeholder engagement, supply chain and operations management, as well as how you use geospatial technologies. This is definitely something that all of the nations on this webinar should look into taking. Just touching on our experience as such, something worth highlighting when it comes to Ordnance Survey. It's very important to us that your business is our business. We enter into long-term government partnerships on the ground. We're a national mapping agency, like many of you on this webinar. We are trustworthy, we're a stable organization, we are part of the UK government, it's been around for a long time and we're not going anywhere as such. What we do in GB, we do it really well, and we are convinced that we have lessons we can learn from each other in a collaborative manner. What we're very proud of is that we maintain one of the largest and most accurate and trusted geospatial data sets in the world. And we can do that for you as well, underpinning innovation such as artificial intelligence and machine learning, all for the greater outputs to nations, so you can get more data to work with as such. We definitely work with partners, both global, regional, and local. delivering assurance to nations. We would build the ecosystem locally. That is very important to us. And we are proud members of OGC when it comes to standard work. We are a strategic partner. When it comes to UNGGIM and IGIF, we have been heavily involved in Inspire standards and ISO certification as well. So in summary, as I'm wrapping this up, as per the World Bank, only 25 to 30% of the world's land is properly managed, properly mapped and registered, not necessarily in a secure land administration system, whilst over 70% of the world's GDP is accounted for in land. So there is work to be done here. It's critical that nations invest in security and tenure of their land rights to enable and to benefit from land taxation and generate return on investments, growing prosperity in the country. And with that, thank you very much for listening. There's been a lot of information, I get that, but I hope you found it useful, particularly the case studies we highlighted. So back to you, Greg.
Thank you very much, Peter. I just wanted to mention that we have a mini report available with lots of the case studies that we mentioned, which will be available to download after the webinar. This is the second in a series of reports that we'll be publishing over the coming weeks, so please keep an eye out for them. And thank you very much to everyone who's been watching this morning and for the questions that we've received so far. So let's start with our first question, Peter. So at the beginning of the webinar, you showed a slide with a list of studies that showed how geospatial information can improve a nation's GDP. Where can I get a copy of that? And are there any more up-to-date studies?
Absolutely. It's in the mini report that Greg, you actually mentioned. Keep an eye out for your email and you can download that report. We'll make sure that it's being distributed. We don't know of any newer studies as such, although the Geospatial Commission in the UK have published a study that just talks about the benefits to the private sector recently, which might be worth actually having a look out for.
Thank you, Peter. So there's another one here. So you covered some pretty impressive ROI numbers in the case studies from Belize and India and Istanbul as well. What do you think was the key to success for these particular projects?
Yeah, that's a good question. I believe it's clear to see that in each of the studies, the projects succeeded because the rights and tenure of properties were secure. Systems should not only be secure from a physical security point of view, but should also shouldn't be susceptible to fraud. Corruption is very important because it's land rights, and have strict rules-based workflows with allocated roles. This all to ensure bad actors can't take advantage of the system. There is value in land, right? So per default, it attracts corruption and so on. So systems should be flexible enough to adapt the legislative change and also be, as we said, fit for the future as a country progresses.
Great, thank you. I think we've probably just got time for one more question. So you mentioned that a base map could help other parts of the economy, not just land. What are those actually?
Yeah, I mean, we have, through extensive work over the years, found that geospatial information or location data has a positive improvement in about, we identified 10 super use cases, as we call them. So these are protection of life and security services, land and property life cycle, understanding commercial risk is in there, effective citizen services, of course, land registration, needless to mention, evidence-based policy making, I mentioned that a couple of times during the webinar. Asset management is another one, efficient transport system and effective planning framework, and also environmental monitoring and regulation. And also worth mentioning is that a recent study that we had in the UK found that this equated to citizens using location data 42 times a day, whether they knew about it or not. So literally from switching on the light in the morning to planning a meeting with a friend, for example, going to work, transporting themselves to work, from work, and so on. So 42 times a day, which is an impressive number, actually, getting in touch with geospatial information.
Great, thank you very much, Peter. Our next webinar is going to be on the 24th September, and where we're looking at ways of enhancing government efficiency using geospatial information. It just leaves me to say thank you again, Peter, for a really useful presentation, and to everybody else for listening and sending in your questions. It's a really useful session, so thank you very much, everybody. Keep safe and well, and enjoy the rest of your day.